Hey everyone, Will here. Today I wanted to talk to you about coding the iDrive system in a BMW. Now, if you're familiar with coding, you'd know that it's the ability to tweak and change and add little features to your car after you've already bought it. So when you're buying a BMW, you get to choose all sorts of different features and packages that you'd like to add to the car for delivery. Now, if you decide you want to change things later on, or if you want to add stuff that BMW wouldn't let you from factory, coding is the way to do that. Now, it's really cool because it lets you also customize things like having your mirrors fold when you lock the car, having your windows go up, putting a digital speedo in your cluster, adjusting the gauges and displays and stuff that display on the iDrive system. So it lets you do all kinds of really, really cool stuff. But I think the main appeal of it is the ability to customize the car to suit exactly what you want rather than being limited by what BMW says you should be able to do. So if that sounds like something appealing to you, definitely look into coding. Now, the downside of coding is that it's very, very, very easy to mess up and what they call brick one of the ECUs in your car. And what that'll mean is that that control unit that controls whatever function it is that you're messing with in the car will stop working altogether or be corrupted, and then you've got to get the car towed back to BMW potentially to have it reprogrammed back to stock. And obviously it's going to void the warranty as well if you've messed with it. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do coding. One of them is to buy an e-sys cable and plug it into the OBD2 port on the car, plug it into a laptop, and there's a whole bunch of different software packages that you can use to do the coding yourself. Now, it's not a real simple process. It is quite involved, and there's quite a lot of learning involved to do it, and the risk of messing something up is pretty high because there's not a whole lot of checks and balances in place to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So it's really something that it's a cool thing to be able to do because it's really rewarding when you get it right. But if you mess it up, you're potentially going to cost yourself a lot of money. Now, there are a lot of companies, including the one that I'm looking at using called Bimmer-tech, which will actually do it remotely for you. So you plug in the cable, you plug in your laptop, you open up a remote session with them, and they'll actually do what you want to do for you, which is cool. There's also an app called Carly, which you can buy, which comes with a little Bluetooth, well, you buy a little Bluetooth dongle separately, which plugs into the OBD2 port. And that allows you to do a lot of coding through the app. It's not quite as open as the e-sys app is on a laptop. So there's not as much that you can do, and the support for some vehicles is a little bit limited, but it's a lot safer than doing it if you don't know what you're doing in the e-sys app. So it's a lot harder to screw things up. But then there's another option for iDrive specifically, which is a service provided by Bimmer-tech, which allows you to choose the features that you want to tweak or add. And then what they'll do is they'll email you a file, and then you copy that file to a USB stick, and all you need to do is just plug it into the car, load it up, follow a few instructions, and you're good to go. And that's the option that I've chosen for iDrive, simply because I didn't see the need to stuff around and potentially damage something when it's that easy to just get in contact with these guys and have them sort it out. So I'll show you what the website looks like now. You type in the VIN number of your car, and it gives you all the features that you can tweak. You simply choose the ones you want, purchase the go through the checkout system and purchase it, and within a couple of days, in my case it was a couple of hours, they email you back a file with some instructions. So all you need to do is format a USB stick and copy the file onto there. Make sure it's the only file that's on the stick and in the root directory of the USB stick. Plug it into your car, and you're pretty much good to go. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to run you through the whole process from start to finish, and then run you through what the tweaks actually look like once we're done. So let's get into it. So you can see here the email that I received back from Bimmer-tech, which is the instructions and the file to copy onto the USB stick. Now, one thing I did find is that, and there's a bit of conflicting information on the net about this, but I found that I had to have my USB stick formatted in NTFS format for this to work. I did actually try it in FAT32 file system first, and it didn't pick up the file. Now, I think that depends on the type of car that you're loading it on, so it's worth just checking with Bimmer-tech to find out what is going to work with your cars. But in my case with the M235i, I needed to have the stick formatted in an NTFS format for it to work for me. So that's just a little thing to keep in mind. So all we do is we copy the file across to the USB stick into the root directory, and that's pretty much all we have to do, and we move over to the car. Alright, so we've copied the files to our USB stick and we've started up the engine. So what we need to do now is plug the stick into our USB slot down here, so get it lined up properly, and we should see the files read off the stick. So you can see there the files being read. The instructions say to leave the USB stick plugged in for a minute before you switch off, so we'll do exactly that. You can see that the lights stop blinking there, so chances are it's actually already finished copying, but I'm going to do exactly what it says anyway, just to be absolutely sure. So the next step after that is to unplug the stick, turn off the car, and then it's very clear that you need to lock the car with the key. It says it says don't use the comfort access, it says use the key fob to lock the car, so we'll do that. And then you have to wait 10 minutes and then come back and boot the system up, and it should take effect, so we'll see what happens. Alright, so it's been over a minute now, so we'll unplug our stick and switch off the car, and then what we need to do is jump out and lock the car with the key. Okay, so car's locked with the key, so now we need to wait 10 minutes and then we can come back and boot up the system and see if the changes have taken effect. So it's been about 20 minutes now since I installed the file, so that's well over the 10-minute threshold that they suggested. So let's switch on the ignition. And we should see within 3 minutes the system reboot itself. There it goes, so it's just switched off. And there it comes back in there, so you can see the M Performance logo loads. So that's obviously worked. That looks really cool, I love that. And there we are into the system. Alright, so the first thing you'll notice when we get out of the boot screen there is that there's no disclaimer anymore. Now what that means is normally what would happen is when the iDrive system first boots up, you get a warning saying that you're not allowed to touch the system or operate it while you're driving, and you have to press the button to click OK before you can get into the system. So it's one of those annoying things that I know it's a legal thing and they have to do it, but yeah, it just annoys me. So we got rid of that. Now, the other thing I should mention quickly as well is that we also disabled the lockout on picture in motion as well as features in motion. So what that means is you can watch video or you can use your office features and everything while you're and internet as well while the vehicle's in motion now. So so that's pretty cool. I've got my data switched off on the mobile at the moment, so that's not working, but yeah, you get the idea. Normally you wouldn't be able to even get into that system when the vehicle's in motion. So so that's pretty cool. Another thing that we've added is under Office now, if we go to Messages, you'll see that you can display a full text message now instead of just the first few lines, which is cool. And jump back out of there and back to Vehicle Information. And you'll see here under Sports Displays, I've now got the BMW M Performance Displays. So I actually already had the power and torque meters there, but they were a really kind of ugly looking gauge. So these are the gauge displays that you get when you buy an M2, an M3, an M4, an M5 and so forth. This car is an M235i. So, you know, some people would argue, you know, it's not a proper M car, it is a proper M car, blah, 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 and there's all this debate online about that. It's not really a proper M car, so we coded it in so it's got that extra feature, and I'll show you quickly now what that looks like with the engine running. So you can see that looks pretty cool. So we'll jump back out of that again and down to this new option here called Xdrive Status. We go in there, and we now have a nice little compass that spins around with the vehicle as it turns, and you can see there's also a pitch and a roll measurement as well, which is handy. Now I like to just have that in the second screen sometimes in the split screen system, so I can see which way I'm facing at a glance. You can see which direction you're going in a kind of roundabout way through the navigation system if you've got the map pointing to north all the time. You can figure it out from that, but you know, this is a nice little way at a glance to see which way you're facing. So that's handy. The other things that I've added as well are under settings. If we go to time and date, you'll see now there's an automatic time setting. That wasn't there at all before, so it meant you had to manually set your time zone. So what this does, if you switch this on, it means that when, well, what it's doing is it's pulling the time data from the GPS signal that's broadcast. So when you change time zones or when there's the daylight savings change, it'll automatically update the time on your car so you don't have to do it manually or remember to do it manually. So that's cool, especially if you're going on a long trip to a different time zone. It'll update automatically when you get into the new zone. So that's handy. Okay, so that's pretty much everything that I changed on. And as I showed you at the start of the video, there are a couple of other bits and pieces that you can tweak. And as I said, it is limited to the iDrive system, specifically this method. But if there is extra stuff that you want to do, you can get in contact with Bimmer-tech and they'll be able to do it remotely for you. So yeah, I think it's a really, really good option for those who, aren't willing to learn it themselves or don't really understand computer stuff too much, or just don't want to take the risk of potentially messing something up. And I'm the sort of person, I love to get in and have a go. But when you're talking about an ECU module that's worth a couple of $1,000s in some cases, I'm not always game to take the risk. So Bimmer-tech is a good one to check out if you're into this kind of stuff. Hopefully you found the video interesting and beneficial. If you have, as always, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.